Hello everyone and welcome to another one of our segments. I am Charity Hange from Warfish Bay Corridor Group, Marketing and Communications Department. Today I am joined by Mr Brighten Simasiku from Namibian German Center for Logistics and University of Science and Technology. He is also the chairperson of the Capacity Building Working Group, which focuses on upskilling the available human resources required into making Namibia the preferred logistics hub for Southern African region. Welcome, Brighten.
Thank you so much, and good morning to you, Charity.
Yeah, so Brighten, tell us from a capacity building perspective, how do we promote and market the logistics hub in a post-COVID era?
Thank you so much, Charity. Before maybe we go straight into answering how do we promote, the logistics hub post-COVID era period, I think it's better to kind of paint a picture on the usual, global abstract conversation in terms of how the pandemic has hit all the efforts that were done, in this case, particularly the efforts that were done by the marketing agencies such as the Warfish Bay Corridor Group in so many respects. We realize that the global supply chains, they are heavily dependent on maritime transport. And we also noticed that the linkages of, between the shipping liners and the ports has got a very heavy contribution to global trade, of which 80% to that can be accounted to the value. I mean the volumes, and the 70% can be accounted to the value contributed by that linkage. And when we look at different regions across the world in terms of global supply chains, we see that the pandemic has hit differently, though there are similarities. For example, when you look at the Latin America and North America, we see that there was a hit of anything above 11%, and then the European area and the Mediterranean Sea, we see that there was a hit of about 13, and then here in Sub-Saharan Africa, we see there was a hit of about 9%. And particularly Namport reported lately and said they had lost about 25% of vessel calls. And all this that I'm trying to paint here is nothing but how much the pandemic has kind of, disrupted the supply chains. And this was due to the pandemic, and not only a pandemic, but, overlapping pandemics. Because when COVID came, there were issues of the economic factors, there were issues of already as a health factors. And then this becomes very much overlapping. And also, just to wrap it up in terms of, this background, what we are facing now is actually deeper than what we faced in 2008 and 2009. The economic crisis that we had then was lighter than what we are facing now. So now, in the long run, what does that translate, and what does that mean to all of us? That will simply tells us that efforts that were made by different, disciplines within the supply chain were all disrupted. So is the marketing effort. Then the question is, how do we then do it after we have had such a hard hit from COVID and generally the overlapping pandemics? We need to then take a very drastic measures. For example, we need to understand how COVID-19 has affected the sector. That is the first stage that we need to take. Number two, we need then to understand the challenges that were faced during the period of COVID, because these challenges, they translate into the future post the COVID era. And then number three, we then need to take the solutions that are being suggested daily by authorities, by stakeholders. And these solutions are the ones that we need to translate into the post-COVID era as solutions that we can go and hold on to adapt and adopt them into the marketing strategies of the logistics hub. I'm quite aware there's so much that we have done, but unfortunately the situation that we have faced might have erased all these efforts, and it may not necessarily be relevant by now. because the kind of situation in which we find ourselves is a situation that does not speak to what we have planned.
Yes.
If it speaks in a very small measure. So the one size fits all marketing strategy is not going to answer post the COVID era.
Yes.
Therefore, for example, as part of what we need to do, one is to continue marketing and encourage that we secure continuity of domestic supply chains. Now, the way we lean these, previously we would just broadly look into the marketing strategies. But now, post the COVID era, as far as the logistics hub is concerned, we now need to lean towards specifications of what we find as challenges that we're faced in the sector. Like I've mentioned, we need to secure continued domestic supply chains. Number two, we need to make sure that we secure continued, maritime transport supply chains in terms of how do we support them, tracing where were they affected the most, where were they affected the least, and then we understand how we do and apply our marketing strategies there. And most importantly, which is not actually the last or least, improve the quality and efficiency of the road freight, logistics. Once that is improved, then we'll be able to understand how can we then improve the whole situation as far as marketing the logistics hub is concerned post, the COVID era. And then in conclusion, our marketing strategy has to apply what is borrowed from the project management field, which is agility. That the marketing strategies, they will need to be flexible, that they lean towards the situations that are present.
Yes.
Instead of we have a rigid marketing strategy
yes.
that will be going a different direction when a situation comes. But post the COVID era, the marketing strategy, in conclusion, I'm suggesting that they'll have to be agile, that they lean towards the present situation, which will be permanent for us, that whatever situation that will come, our marketing strategy is so flexible that it continues to bend and lean towards what is present at the particular time.
Right.